Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is March 4th, 2024, and Barcelona are not fully ruling out talking to Nagelsmann. Also, I will discuss with you the new Champions League format, and finally, we'll talk about the reason why Vitor Roque did not play in yesterday's match. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo and this is Barca News live podcast on every Mondays and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Where not only do I get to share the news with you wonderful people, but I also get to read your comments in the chat section, answer any questions, and get a discussion going. For those of you who will be watching the live stream when it ends, I will be leaving a timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline so you can skip through the discussion if that's what you want to do. And finally, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. All of this helps the channel continue to grow. Now, I was about to post a news video before the podcast. Unfortunately, my live streaming software is not working well. So I spent the last 2 hours trying to upload the video, trying to get with customer support. It's been an absolute mess. I don't even know if it's going to work right now. So please let me know if the slides don't load. It's been a problem all day. By the way, guys, if you ever think about live streaming, don't ever think about StreamYard. StreamYard is absolutely garbage. I've spent a lot of money on it, and it's giving me nothing but problems after problems. Let's see if it works today. Hopefully it does. But again, if you've ever thinking about getting a streaming software or someone asks you about it, do not get StreamYard. I cannot repeat that enough. StreamYard is awful. Just absolutely awful. But anyways, let's start with the news because we do have a lot of news to talk about, specifically with Nagelsmann. Let me know if you guys can see the slide, please, in the chat section. It wasn't loading earlier. It was just like a little buffering. I can see it, but it was the same problem earlier where I could see the slide on my screen, but whatever the stream was going, the destination of the stream did not load the slide. So please let me know if you can see the slide in the chat section. What I mean by slide, the picture. You see the picture of Nagelsmann on your screen, please let me know. If not, I can take it off, but it's been a problem all day. Anyways, again, do not get StreamYard. Absolutely garbage software. Anyways, let's start with the news because it's reported that Barcelona are not ruling out Nagelsmann completely. DJ Ahmed says, yes, please. What's the yes? I can see. Okay, yes, thank God. Okay, good. Looks like the problem was finally fixed. Okay, sorry. Let's get back. No more distractions. Anyways. But again, still, do not get StreamYard. It's garbage. Anyways, let's start with the news because Barcelona are not completely ruling out Nagelsmann. Now, initially, it looked like Nagelsmann had been ruled out. You know, Barcelona had initially considered him because, of course, he's from the German school of thought. John Laporta is a big fan. He even considered him back when he was a candidate. But as time started going by and Barcelona were starting to rule out candidates, it seemed like maybe Nagelsmann was not going to be an option because he does have a contract with the German national team until after the Euros. That's when the contract ends. Of course, there's a possibility that Nagelsmann ends up becoming a free agent. But the problem was that the Euros end in July. And by then, it could be too late because by then your preseason's about to kick off. You still don't have a coach. The summer transfer market has already opened. You still don't have a coach. So it seemed like maybe Nagelsmann was not going to be an option because he would become free, assuming he will become free too late. But now they're reporting that Barcelona are still not completely ruling him out, and they first want to reach out to him and have a conversation with him or his entourage or his agent because they want to see what his future plans are. Now, I'm not saying that Barcelona will sign him or they want to sign him. They just simply want to first talk to him before they can completely rule him out, which, of course, it is a good practice to do. You know, picking a coach is a very important and critical decision. So the least thing you want Barcelona to do, the least you want them to do is to at least consider all the options, talk to all the options, and then pick a winner. I know a lot of people are always saying just Hansi Flick. Look, Hansi Flick is still the #1 candidate. He's still the most favored one by now. I gave you all the reasons in a previous video, but Barcelona still need to, check all their boxes, dot all their I's. So they still want to reach out to Nagelsmann, his entourage, have a conversation, and then see whether they can still consider him as a candidate or whether completely rule it out. So even though Nagelsmann seemed like he was going to be ruled out, it seems like he's still in the race, but Barcelona still want to talk to the German coach. Now, let's start with my favorite part, which is the comment section to see what you guys are saying. And then we will talk about the new UCL format. Very interesting format. Very desperate attempt at competing with the Super League, but we'll talk about all of it later. All right, let's see. This chat section just moved on me. The exclusive mindset says Nagelsmann at Barca will be amazing, even though I don't know if he has the Barca DNA. Good point. We'll see. Abbas says, Mo, do you think Barcelona should sell Pedri before it's too late and replace him with Musiala or Wirtz? Okay, 2 points in regards to that. First of all, if we sold Pedri, we cannot get Musiala or Wirtz. We are not under the 1-to-1 rule. The 1-to-1 rule says if you sell a player, you can use all the money to sign someone new. So let's say we sold Pedri for 120 under the 1-to-1 rule, we would be able to use that 120 to buy someone else. We're not under that rule. We're under the 1-to-4 rule, which means we can only use a quarter. So if we sell Pedri for 120, we can only use 25 million of that 120 to sign someone. You can't sign Musiala or Wirtz for 25 million. Okay, they each cost north of 100 million. Number two, even if we are under the 1-to-1 rule, selling Pedri would be an incredibly dumb decision. Pedri is one of the most talented midfielders in the world. There's no doubt about it. Yes, he's injury prone right now, but instead of tossing him, what we should do is try to find a solution to fix his injury. Let's not forget, when Messi first started, he was too injury prone, and then Barcelona found a way to fix it by implementing a special diet for him, implementing special training sessions for him. And with that, Messi was able to overcome his injuries and became the greatest ever. Imagine if back then we would have been, Messi's getting injured a lot. Just sell him. It's, before it's too late. No, absolutely not. All right, let's see. Joe says, Nagelsmann is better tactically than Flick. If you would have told me this a few years ago, I would have said yes, but his latest stints I'm not convinced either. And here's the thing why a lot of people are like, oh, it's definitely Flick or it's definitely De Zerbi. And it's like, it's not definitely one or the other or any of them. It's a very tough decision, and all of them have positive and cons. So it's not as easy as people want to make it seem like, oh, just sign Flick. It's easy. No, it's not. Because Flick has won a sextuple, which besides Pep Guardiola, no one else has ever done. But then his resume is short, right? De Zerbi, amazing tactician, never managed a big club, right? Tuchel has plenty of experience, big club experience that De Zerbi doesn't have. Long resume, which Flick doesn't have, but he's been not so great lately. Same with Nagelsmann, right? He had really great stints, but now lately, not so much. So it's not as a clear-cut option as people want to make it out to be. It's definitely a very difficult situation. And the last thing and the least we want from Barcelona is to consider all their options versus just jumping in on their first one. Anyways, let's get back to the news because we do have to talk about the new Champions League format, which UEFA has announced. Now, this will affect both the Champions League and Europa. And the changes are as follow. And I will make this bigger. What just happened? I guess this is probably there we go. All right. So this is what the new format will look like. You know, the old format or the current format, of course, you have 32 teams total divided into groups of 4, where the top 2 qualify to the round of 16. So 16 teams that qualify to the round of 16. And obviously from there, it's just elimination, where we have quarterfinals, semifinals, and final. The new format will feature 36 teams instead of 32. So 4 more teams. And instead of groups of 4, there's going to be just one big group of 36. It's pretty much going to be like a league. 36 teams where, don't worry, you're not going to have to play against all of them. But pretty much it's going to be a draw to determine who plays against who. But each team will play 8 matches. 4 at home and 4 away. So there will be 8 matches total for each team in this big group of 36. With, again, 4 at home and 4 away. Now, the top, and I'll put this back, the top 8 teams will automatically qualify to the quarterfinals. Okay? Teams number 9 through 24 will qualify to a knockout playoffs. And then the bottom 25 to 36 will be automatically eliminated. So that's UEFA's response to the Super League. That's how they are trying to compete with the Super League. I don't know. You guys tell me. I want to hear your opinion about this new format. I think it's pretty silly. I think it's just a desperate attempt to compete with the Super League. But that's just my opinion. And another thing is you are adding 2 more matches in the group stages, even though it's not a group stages, to the teams. I guess you don't have to play round of 16, so it'll be the same amount of matches, but I don't know. This format doesn't make any sense to me. I think the old format was just fine, but this is UEFA's response. I want to hear you guys' response, so let me know in the comment section. What do you think about the new Champions League format, which again will also apply to the Europa League? All right, let's see. Spooky says Xavi didn't play Vitor Roque because Barcelona didn't buy Subimendi. In case you guys don't know, that's what I said during my post-match live analysis. That's what Spooky's saying. And Enoch says, Barca fans saying that we need to drop the Barca DNA are one of the worst Barca fans ever. Why would you drop a philosophy and identity of a club? Barca DNA is the history of this club. I agree. Not only is it the history, not only is it the identity of the club, it's a philosophy that has won us everything we have ever won. The only times Barcelona has struggled is when we didn't have the philosophy. Valverde, right? We struggle under Valverde. People like to romanticize the past, but let's be honest. Barcelona played like crap under Valverde. Sure, we won 2 leagues and a cup, but that was thanks to Messi, not to Valverde. But under Valverde, the team struggled, and it's because Valverde did not play Barca DNA. Same under Koeman. Same under Xavi, even though it makes no sense to me because Xavi is the embodiment of the Barca DNA as a player. But yeah, as a coach, he's not. So yeah, I agree 100%. Dropping the Barca DNA makes no sense to me. Obviously, it does need to be adapted and modified to modern times. There's no doubt about that. It does need to evolve because you have to adapt to the times. But dropping it, no, that's not the solution. Because let's remember, Pep Guardiola's Barca played with Barca DNA, but it was a different than Cruyff's Barca, right? Even though it built upon it, because you have to adapt. Imagine if during Guardiola's time we would have just said, "Oh, Cruyff's DNA is outdated. Just toss it away. Bring in different." No, Pep Guardiola said, "No, this is our DNA, is our identity. Let me just improve it a little bit." Right? Then Luis Enrique came. What did he do? Did he say, "Oh, this is an outdated. Let me just toss it away"? No, he took Barca's DNA and modified it even more to adapt it to his version. And he also wanted Trebel, right? So it's not about getting rid of it. It's just about adapting it to the modern times. All right, let's see. Alexis says, why have we not seen any of Hector Fort? He plays amazing, and Xavi responses to bench him for 6 games and playing a center back at right back. That's a good question, my friend. I think Fort should deserve some minutes, at least, the last 20, 15 minutes just to give him continuity. But also it's not a decision that has hurt us because Koundé has been good these past few games. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily a decision that has hurt us, but definitely a decision that, that could have been made better by including Fort a few more minutes here and there, especially against, if you're seeing things are not working out, why not try something new? But that's the problem because Xavi, I think, does not have the courage to try things that are new. But anyways, speaking of that, let's get back to the news because we do have to talk about the big question of why did Xavi Hernandez start Marc Guiu or Vitor Roque in yesterday's match against Athletic Club de Bilbao? Now, this is the official reason that the club have given. You tell me if you buy it or not. But the official reason why Roque or Guiu were not subbed in is because, according to Xavi, his entourage, his staff, is that number one was the injuries. We had Frankie de Jong and Pedri get injured at separate times. So right there, Xavi had to use 2 substitutions to sub them, only leaving 3, right? Because you get 5 substitutions that you can make in 3 windows. So we used 2 substitutions in 2 windows. So that left 3 substitutions to be made in 1 window. The second reason is that supposedly Andreas Christensen, or not supposedly, this is true, Andreas Christensen felt very tired and he asked for the substitution. So Xavi had to bring him out to put in Oriol Romeo. So that goes your third one. Fourth one was Joao Felix, right? Where Xavi felt that this was, a good time to bring in Joao Felix, who supposedly is world class. I haven't seen it yet. And, maybe help us, score that late goal or assist or something. So that leaves the last substitution, which is Íñigo Martínez for Pau Cubarsí. And this would have been the opportunity to bring in either Guiu or Vitor Roque. Because, substituting Pedri and Frankie who are injured, Christensen who's tired, bring in Joao for Rafinha who hadn't done anything. That all makes sense up to this point. But Íñigo for Cubarsí, that made absolutely no sense at all. Because Cubarsí, A, was doing great, and B, what you needed was more offense, not to take out a center back for another center back. So this was the opportunity for Xavi to bring in Guiu or Roque. Now, who was left on the field to be subbed out? Well, Lamine had just come in 45 minutes before. Joao Felix had just been subbed in. So the only remaining option would have been Lewandowski. He would have been the only one who was able to come out in order for Roque or Guiu to come in. And supposedly Xavi wanted to bet on Lewandowski because he's been in good form these last few matches. He's been scoring goals. So he decided to bet on the experienced guy in hopes that the experienced guy could score. So this is the official reason why Xavi did not start bringing Guiu or Roque for Lewandowski. I'm not buying it because at that point, Lewandowski was done. He was exhausted. He was dragging himself through the field. He was barely running. He was completely disconnected. So how are you going to tell me that you are betting on a guy who is done, who's not even running anymore because he's so tired, but not on a pair of fresh legs of guys who have both shown that with very little minutes they've been given, that they could score because they're hungry to score? I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about this official reason? Let me know in the comment section. All right, let's see. The exclusive mindset says the new format is the same as the Super League, but only difference is all the money goes to UEFA. Exactly, 100%. When I first heard about the Super League, I was like, I don't like this because the original format was, just 20 teams playing in the league, just like a regular league, with the top 12 always being the same teams, right? The founding teams, and just the bottom 8 changing. And I was like, I don't like that. It seems kind of elitist. Like, it's just going to be the top clubs making more and more money and just getting bigger and bigger as the smaller clubs just get poorer and poorer. But then they came up with a new format where, I explained in a separate video, where it's a lot more open. There's 3 different tiers, so it's a lot more inclusive. And I was like, okay, this is more like it. This makes sense. You have more teams. It's more inclusive. Anybody can come, anybody can go, and everybody shares in the money. And that's the whole point of this. But here we have the same format, but who gives the money? Of course, UEFA. So at first I was against the Super League, but now that I see their new format, I'm like, I'm for the Super League because I'm like, if we're going to have the 2 same competitions, then I would prefer the one where the clubs keep the money and where the clubs get to dictate the rules versus the Champions League where UEFA keeps the money and they get to play God And we've seen how that has worked out. But anyways, let's see. Trick Shot Slot says betting on Lewandowski is a surefire way to lose house money. I don't think so. Look, you cannot deny that Lewandowski is one of the best strikers of our generation. I wouldn't say betting on him is a sure way, but under yesterday's circumstances, it was not a smart decision because Lewandowski was done. He was exhausted. You could see it in his face. You could see it in the way he was running. He was just out of energy. So in that case, take him out. He's done. Let's see. Scarf says, we have to admit Xavi is shite as a coach. Yes, we won the league last season, but we played dull football and won games by 1-0 this season. He got more players and the team should be better. I 100% agree with you. I've been saying this whole time. But people still defend them. And they still come up with the craziest excuses. Oh, it's because Frankie's injured, and then Frankie came back. Oh, well, it's because Pedri's injured, and then Pedri came back. And it's like, oh, it's because Gabi was injured. And it's like, there's always going to be an excuse. Oh, it's because Subimendi, Barcelona didn't sign Subimendi. It's because Barcelona didn't sign Kimmich. It's because the excuses are abound, and people will always find excuses because that's the thing. When you are determined on supporting a person, no matter what they do, you're never going to be able to see what's going bad because you're always going to support them. They do great. Yeah, they're great. They do bad. Yeah, they're great. They do okay. Yeah, they're great. So you're always going to find an excuse. All right, let's see. Samuel says Xavi should call Noah Darvish to the first team to replace Pedri. So apparently Noah's not ready yet. He is still adapting. His adaptation is going slower than originally anticipated. But the club are fine. They're okay with it because they know it's his first season in Barcelona. It's his first time leaving home. You're talking about a 16, 17-year-old kid leaving his home, his country, to go to a whole new country, to adapt to a whole new league, to adapt to a whole new system of play. So his adaptation is going much slower than initially anticipated, but the club are fine with that because they understand the circumstances and they're not in a rush. They know, this is a future bet. They know they have a gem on their hands and they're willing to, be patient with him. But he's not ready yet to be called up to the first team. Let's see. What else? Dem4A says when Hansi Flick comes, he will show us how mediocre Xavi is. All right. Tercio says, Mo, do you think that it's time for Rafinha and Roberto to go? Roberto's leaving. Roberto's contract expires at the end of the season. Xavi wanted him to stay. So had Xavi stayed, they would have renewed Sergi. There was some talks about the club maybe still considering renewing Sergi even after Xavi leaves, but for now it's looking like he's leaving. But look, Sergi. Oh wait, Robert. Never mind. I thought you were talking about Sergi. Right? Talking about Lewandowski. If we get a good offer for Lewandowski, I say yeah, absolutely. Why not? Because two things: his salary is about to increase even more next season. So getting rid of that salary is going to open up a lot of space on our wage bill to register more players. Second of all, if we can get a good offer from Saudi or the MLS, why not? You're making, that's two wins, right? One is you're making money off the transfer. Two, you're clearing a lot of space on your wage bill. So that can solve a lot of the financial fair play rule problems. Not completely, but it can definitely help. As far as Rafinha, I've said it since last season. Rafinha needs to go. Rafinha is not Barca level. People fought me hard on it last season. They said I was biased. They said my analytical skills are poor. They said I didn't know what I was talking about. Said my opinion was shit. And now most people agree that Rafinha is shit. But yes, last season I was the crazy one. I don't know. But yeah, Rafinha should have never been signed to begin with. But anyways. All right, let's end the live stream with one last bit of news, and then we'll do more comments. But let's end the news with Pique, because Pique has spoken about the club situation, and this is what he had to say. Let's see. I'll remove my logo. There we go. All right. It says, if the reality of the club is that there is not a penny, it must be said. You cannot sell smoke and say that we are going to win the Champions League and then there is no money to compete. Now, when asked about solutions, Real Madrid getting Mbappe, his answer was, well, we are going to trust the people of La Masia, who are very good people and very talented. Let them work hard, and we will try to compete to win La Liga with them. So, couple of things. First of all, Pique kind of slamming a little bit the club by saying you cannot sell smoke, and that's more of a Spanish saying. Otherwise, you cannot bullshit people or gaslight. I guess that would be the direct translation. You cannot gaslight people. That you shouldn't gaslight people by saying, hey, we're going to win La Liga and the Champions League. You should be honest and say, hey, look, we don't have money. We're going to bet on a young talent from La Masia, and we might go a couple of seasons, 2 or 3 seasons without winning anything, but we don't have money to make any signings. We don't have any money to compete at the Champions League level. So let's just bet on the youngsters and then, build a team for the future, because what you cannot be doing is gaslighting people, telling them we can win the Champions League. And I agree with Pique. And I think I said this, I can't remember when, it was a few weeks ago, but I said this because I think both Laporta and Xavi have gaslit people. And this is part of why people are so disappointed. Because we all remember when Xavi said, we're alive in all 4 competitions. And he also said, we are closer to success than we are to failure, right? And we ended up being alive only in 3 because we got knocked out of the Spanish Super Cup. Then we were alive in only 2 because we got knocked out of the Copa del Rey. Now we're still technically alive in the Champions League and La Liga, but the chances of us winning either are very slim. And then there's, of course, Laporta, who always said, this season our goal is the Champions League, blah, blah, blah. And I think Pique is right, because those expectations should have never been set. Now, of course, I understand this is FC Barcelona. Barcelona should always aim to win everything because given the grandeur of the club. But we should always also be honest and be like, look, we're going to try, but just remember, this is a young project. We're betting on the youngsters. We're still building for the future. So we have to be patient. But we're still going to try. But this whole we're alive in competitions, we have a chance at winning, that I think is gaslighting people, because looking at the squad, this is not a squad capable of winning the Champions League. Let's be honest. Or even La Liga. And if we do end up winning one or the other, it's not going to be because of merit. It would be because sometimes clubs do get lucky, and sometimes teams do win competitions without deserving it. Real Madrid's last Champions League, that's a perfect example. They won it without deserving it. They played horribly. Every team they faced played better than them, but they would just park the bus, hold on, and then with one counter attack, boom, they would score a goal because Benzema was having his best season. So you could technically win competitions without being the best, but let's be honest, this team is not capable of achieving a Champions League win. And I think that should have been made clear from the beginning. But I don't know. You guys tell me, what do you guys think about Pique's statements? And let's read your comments and see what do you think. Forza Larsa says we have to really have to rely on Fermin now. Mo, how high or low do you rate Fermin? I think Fermin has a lot of potential. Right now, he still makes some silly mistakes where he'll make tackles. He'll arrive too late at a tackle. He commits fouls that sometimes are unnecessary. But he has a lot of potential. You see it. He makes the team a lot more vertical. The way he combines with his teammates, his diagonal passes, his forward passes, and most of all, his grit, right? He is the closest thing to Gabi when it comes to as far as his grit, his determination, the way he plays, the way he fights for every ball, the way he fights for every pass, for every tackle. He has a lot of potential. Of course, he's still making, like I said, some silly mistakes here and there. But what do you expect, right? He's young. He just made it to the first team. He's not getting that much minutes. But I think if we give him more continuity, He's only going to be able to sharpen those skills and only get better and better because, again, I think he is the closest thing to Gavi. I'm not saying he is the same as Gavi or at the level of Gavi. No, I'm saying the closest thing to him. Gavi's, of course, Gavi. Gavi's untouchable. Okay, let's see. Mark says, Xavi subs continue to be questionable. Even when we won the league last year, it was the same situation. I agree. And Alexis says, reinforcement isn't a bad, but why do we need to sign a pivot when we have Frankie? He can play the position. Just because Xavi can't get the best of the team doesn't mean that's Frankie's fault. Frankie's not really a Barcelona type pivot. He is more. He's more of a double pivot, and we saw that at the beginning of the season where he played with Romeo, and back then Romeo was doing well, and the two of them were actually a great pairing. We all remember, Romeo would just stay back and he would be solid defensively, allowing Frankie the freedom to make forward runs and break lines with his runs, and make those he would be more associative in the offense. But then Frankie got injured. And Romeo, kind of without Frankie, was a little bit lost. So then Xavi stopped using him. And now, with the lack of minutes, lack of confidence, it's like Romeo's a done deal. Now we have to improvise by bringing a center back. So Frankie's not really that great at being a single pivot. He's more of a double pivot. He needs someone to guard his back. And we've seen it, when we started using Christensen again, we saw how Frankie started getting a little bit more confidence making those forward runs, because when Frankie knows that someone is watching his back, he becomes, more offensive. But as a single pivot, he's not. But you're right. Just because we didn't sign Subimendi, that's not an excuse. If your whole system, a lot of people, when they defend Xavi, they always use this point, right? They're like, oh, well, is it Xavi's fault that the club didn't sign Subimendi? My response to that is, you think you're making a point in favor of Xavi, but you're not. You're actually making a point against Xavi, because that further shows that Xavi's not a good coach. Because if you're basing your whole system on just one guy, and if your whole system collapses just because you don't have that one guy, that means that's not a good system. You need to build a system where all players play collectively, where every player has a role. They know what their role is. It's clearly defined, and they all work as a collective, as a one big machine, where if you take off one player and put another one, the machine just keeps working. It doesn't matter, right? It's like if your tire goes flat, you just switch out the tire and your car keeps going. It's not like, oh, I switched out the tire, not the whole car doesn't work, right? And that's Xavi's system, because he depends on individualities. He depends on individual talent. So when one player is injured or gets suspended, the whole thing collapses, because he depends on individualities. There's no system in place. So the whole is it Xavi's fault Subimendi, Barcelona didn't sign Subimendi, that further proves that Xavi's not a good coach. Because you're telling me his whole system just depends on one guy, and if you can't have that guy, then the whole thing falls apart. Okay, what happened if he would have signed Subimendi? What happened when Subimendi would have gotten suspended? Because you're bound to get suspended, eventually you collect 5 yellows, suspended. What would have happened when Subimendi got injured? What would have happened when Subimendi needed rest? You're telling me the team would have collapsed all over again? But like I said, people will always find excuses. Let's see. Fuzzy Penguin says, who do you think will replace the young Pedri? Would you drop Rafinha to midfield? I actually made a video about this, but like I said, I was struggling with my software, so I wasn't able to upload it before the podcast. So I will upload it after the podcast, so make sure you check it out. And Dem4A says, by the way, Mo, do you still think that is a big sale next summer? Because we need to reduce. Yeah, there's definitely going to be some big sales. The question is who, right? Because Barcelona prefer not to. That's what the news is. Or that's what internal sources are saying. Barcelona prefer not to sell anyone. They prefer only to reinforce the squad. But they know that they have to. And since they have to, the question is who. And right now, Barcelona have not made any final decision on who they want to offload. They do have a list of preferences. For example, they prefer to offload Rafinha over, Lamine or Gavi or Pedri, right? Or they prefer to offload, let's say, Christensen or Koundé over offloading Araujo or Cubarsí, right? So they do have a list of preferred players that they would prefer to offload, but so far no final decision has been made. Let's see. Yosef says, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but Vitor Roque still has a lot to improve before he starts seeing minutes. We should trust in Margiu and Pau Victor before Roque. The question is, how is Vitor Roque supposed to improve if he doesn't get minutes? Because playing minutes is not the same as training. So if you just keep Vitor Roque on the bench, how is he going to improve? More importantly, when Xabi does give Vitor Roque a few minutes, he puts him on the wing. So again, how is Vitor supposed to adapt to the center forward position when he hardly gets any minutes, and when he does get minutes, he plays as a winger? You know? So Raz says, what are the list of things we are doing to make summer's transfer window easier, and what do you personally suggest? What do you mean? I mean, it's gonna also depend on who the coach is. So whoever Barcelona hire, he's always obviously gonna be consulted on who needs to go. And once that is the final decisions are made on who's gonna be offloaded, then it's a matter of sitting down with the players and be like, look, you're not gonna play. So it's better that you look for a new club, right? All right. I think that is all, my friends. Again, I'm going to upload the video, which I try to upload right before the live stream. Didn't work because my live stream software was being terrible. Again, don't ever get StreamYard. That's awful. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the news video, which will be uploaded shortly. Have a good night or good morning wherever you are in the world. And as always, Visca Barça.